The space station on Europa gleamed under the distant sunlight, a marvel of human engineering against the stark ice landscape of Jupiter's moon. Inside the research facility, 8-year-old Lily Martinez skipped down the corridor, her dark curls bouncing with each step. The daughter of 2 leading xenolinguists, she had grown up surrounded by the most advanced studies of alien communication systems in human history. "Dad, they're coming today," Lily called out as she entered the lab where her father, Carlos Martinez, was reviewing data on his tablet. Carlos smiled at his daughter's excitement. "That's right, sweetheart. The Artaxian delegation will dock in about 2 hours. Remember what we talked about?" Lily nodded seriously. "Be polite, don't stare at their breathing tubes, and don't speak unless spoken to first." She recited the rules that had been drilled into everyone at the station. The Artaxian Empire had only established diplomatic relations with Earth 3 years ago, and every interaction was carefully managed to avoid offense. "Good girl," Carlos said, ruffling her hair. "Where's your mother?" "Mom's in the translation chamber, setting up the formal greeting," Lily replied. She hopped onto a stool next to her father. "Can I show them my project?" Carlos hesitated. The translation algorithm Lily had been working on as part of her education program had shown remarkable results, almost too remarkable. At 8, she had an intuitive understanding of language patterns that sometimes surpassed the adult researchers. "We'll see, Lily. These are important visitors." The Artaxian Empire ruled over 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. They were an ancient civilization that had been spacefaring when humans were still figuring out how to make fire. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's, and their political structure encompassed over 40 different species. Humans, confined largely to their solar system with only a handful of extrasolar outposts, were seen as primitive curiosities by the Empire. 2 hours later, the station hummed with nervous energy as the Artaxian ship docked. Lily stood with her parents and the station's senior staff in the reception area. Her blue dress had been carefully chosen to match the formal diplomatic colors of the Artaxian Central Authority. The airlock cycled, and 4 figures entered. The Artaxians stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the station lights. Their 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller eyes above them, blinked independently as they surveyed the room. Breathing tubes extended from slits below their jawline, pulsing slightly with each breath. Station Director Laura Bailey stepped forward. "Honored representatives of the glorious Artaxian Empire, we welcome you to Europa Research Station. We are humbled by your presence." The tallest Artaxian, adorned with elaborate metallic ornaments that indicated his high rank, made a gesture with his upper limbs. The translator on Director Bailey's wrist buzzed to life. "High Commander Vexthor acknowledges your greeting," it relayed in a flat, mechanical voice. "The inspection of peripheral Allied facilities will now commence." Beside, the commander stood a smaller Artaxian with simpler adornments. Through the translator, they learned this was Sub-Commander Zrel, who would be handling the technical aspects of the inspection. The humans had prepared for months for this visit. The Artaxians were considering allowing Earth to establish a trade outpost near one of their minor worlds, a significant advancement in human-Artaxian relations. As the formal introductions continued, Lily watched the 4th Artaxian with curiosity. This one wore no ornaments at all and stood slightly apart from the others. When their eyes met, the alien tilted its head in what seemed like surprise. The delegation began moving through the station, examining the research facilities with an air of barely concealed boredom. High Commander Vexthor occasionally made dismissive gestures at human technology, his translator broadcasting comments about primitive systems and rudimentary understanding. During the tour of the linguistics lab, Elena Martinez explained their work on cross-species communication. "We've developed new algorithms for understanding the nuances in Artaxian formal speech," she said proudly. Lily, who had been quietly following the group, suddenly spoke up. "It's like music with words," she said. "Your language has patterns like our classical compositions." The room fell silent. Carlos quickly moved to pull Lily back, but the damage was done. High Commander Vexthor turned all four eyes toward the EO child, his breathing tubes flaring in what the humans would later learn was a sign of extreme displeasure. The young one speaks without permission, the translator buzzed. This is not acceptable. Please forgive my daughter, Elena said quickly. Children sometimes, but something unexpected happened. The unadorned Artaxian stepped forward and made a series of sounds that the translators didn't catch. Lily smiled and, to everyone's shock, responded with similar sounds, crude but recognizable Artaxian speech. The unadorned alien, Trill, a diplomatic aide as they would later learn, seemed pleased. High Commander Vexthor, however, was not. Silence. The commander's voice was so loud it overloaded the translator, which emitted a sharp squeal before falling silent. In the Artaxian hierarchy, lesser beings did not address imperial representatives directly. A human child speaking their language was beyond inappropriate. It was an insult. What happened next occurred so quickly that the station's security systems barely captured it. High Commander Vexthor raised his ceremonial staff, which was not merely ceremonial but contained a powerful energy weapon, and pointed it at Lily. No! Carlos lunged forward, but he was too slow. A flash of blue light erupted from the staff. It struck Lily squarely in the chest. For a moment she stood there, eyes wide with surprise, a small hand reaching toward her father. Then she crumpled to the floor. The medical team rushed in, but there was nothing to be done. The energy had stopped her heart instantly. The station erupted in chaos. Security officers drew weapons. Scientists screamed. Elena collapsed beside her daughter's body, her anguished cries echoing through the chamber. Sub-Commander Zrel stepped between the humans and Vexthor, making urgent gestures. The commander himself seemed momentarily surprised by his own actions, but quickly regained his imperial bearing. The lesser being showed disrespect, the translator on Zrel's wrist stated flatly. Correction was applied. Director Bailey, her face ashen, managed to prevent immediate violence by ordering station security to stand down. We need to contact Earth, she whispered to her deputy. Now. The Artaxians retreated to their ship, ignoring the humans' demands for explanation or justice. Before they departed, Sub-Commander Zrel cast a long look at Lily's body, now cradled in her mother's arms. The video of Lily's murder was transmitted to Earth within minutes, along with all diplomatic communications. 12 hours later, the Artaxian Empire issued its official response. The incident was regrettable, but within the rights of an imperial commander when faced with protocol violations. No action would be taken against High Commander Vexthor. They too expected the matter to end there. After all, what could one primitive planet do against the might of an empire spanning 3 spiral arms of the galaxy? They would soon learn their mistake. On Earth, as millions watched the footage of a child murdered for speaking, something changed in the human spirit. Deep in military installations across the planet, weapons that had been developed in secret were brought online. Reservists were called up. Production facilities switched to war footing. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility since the stars first beckoned. Now, as Earth mourned Lily Martinez, it also prepared to show the galaxy what happened when you harmed a human child. The war was about to begin. News of Lily Martinez's death reached Earth within hours. The video spread across every screen on the planet. People watched in horror as the Artaxian commander killed an 8-year-old girl for simply speaking. In homes, offices, and public squares, the reaction was the same. Stunned silence followed by rage. At the United Nations Emergency Council in New York, President Alan Nichols stood before representatives from every nation. His face was grim as the chamber fell silent. Today we witnessed an act that cannot be forgiven, he said, his voice steady despite his anger. The Artaxian Empire has shown us what they think of humanity. They killed a child and called it a correction. They murdered Lily Martinez and expected us to accept it. The room remained silent as images of Lily appeared on the large screens. The Empire believes we are weak. They believe we will bow our heads and continue as if nothing happened. President Nichols paused. They are wrong. In the back of the chamber, Admiral Samantha Wright watched with arms crossed. She had known the Martinez family personally. Carlos and Elena had consulted on several classified military projects before being assigned to Europa. Their daughter had been bright, curious, and full of potential. Now she was gone, killed on a whim by an alien who saw humans as little more than insects. After the address, Admiral Wright was summoned to a secure room beneath the UN building. There she found herself facing the Security Council and several military leaders from around the world. "Admiral Wright," said Defense Secretary George Bell, "you've been chosen to lead our response. Operation Fallen Child is now active." Wright nodded solemnly. For 15 years, Earth had been preparing in secret for possible conflict with advanced alien civilizations. While diplomats smiled and negotiated, military planners worked on the assumption that humanity might one day face an existential threat from the stars. "The Artaxians have 7 outposts in our solar system," Wright said, activating a holographic display. "The largest is near Neptune's orbit. Our first strike will target this facility." "With what?" asked the Chinese representative. "Their shields can withstand nuclear weapons, and their ships outgun ours by orders of magnitude." Wright smiled grimly. "Not anymore." 3 days after Lily's death, 12 Earth ships approached the Artaxian outpost near Neptune. They were small compared to the massive alien structure that served as a waypoint for Empire vessels traveling to and from Earth's solar system. Inside the outpost, Artaxian officers monitored the approaching human vessels with amused detachment. "The primitives send toys against us," Sub-Commander Devrak said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Perhaps they wish to die alongside the child who insulted the High Commander." On the bridge of the lead Earth ship, the EDF Retribution, Captain Joe Lewis watched the targeting screen as they closed in on the alien station. "All ships, maintain course," he ordered. "Quantum destabilizers at full charge." He glanced at the small photo taped to his console, Lily Martinez smiling at her last birthday. "For Lily," he whispered. The Artaxian outpost fired warning shots, energy beams slicing through space well away from the human ships. It was meant as a demonstration, a final chance for the humans to retreat. They did not turn back. They continue. "Their approach," an Artaxian officer reported. "Impact with our shields in 30 seconds. Sub-Commander Devrax made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. "Let them crash against our defenses. The lesson will be educational for the survivors." The first human ship struck the Artaxian shield and kept going. Instead of exploding against the energy barrier, it passed through as the shield rippled and failed. Alarms blared throughout the outpost. "Impossible!" Devrak shouted. "Shields are at full power." But something was happening to the shield generators. Where the human ships touched them, the carefully calibrated energy fields began to unravel at the molecular level. Earth's quantum destabilization technology, developed from years of studying Artaxian shield emissions, was working exactly as designed. Captain Lewis watched with grim satisfaction as the alien shields collapsed. "All ships, secondary phase. Deploy boarding teams." From the Earth vessels poured specially trained soldiers in advanced combat suits. They had trained for years for this moment, rehearsing combat scenarios against simulated Artaxian troops. Now they moved with precision through the suddenly vulnerable outpost. Back on Earth, Admiral Wright watched the live feed from the soldiers' helmet cameras. The operation was proceeding even better than expected. The Artaxians, confident in their superior technology, had minimal internal defenses. They had never imagined their shields could fail. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the Artaxian Central Authority." The alien face that appeared on the main screen was not the same species as those on the outpost. This was an Artaxian Prime, one of the ruling caste of the Empire. Its skin was pale violet and 6 eyes blinked in obvious agitation. "This is High Chancellor Kethvox of the glorious Artaxian Empire," the translator interpreted. "Your attack on an Imperial facility is an act of war. Cease immediately or face annihilation." Admiral Wright stepped into view of the camera. "High Chancellor, I am Admiral Samantha Wright of Earth Defense Force. Your empire killed a human child. There will be consequences. The Artaxian made a sound the translator couldn't interpret. The incident with the young one was regrettable but justified under Imperial law. This disproportionate response will bring the full might of the Empire upon your world. Wright's expression didn't change. You should know that we have already downloaded all data from your outpost. We know the position of every Artaxian ship and colony within 50 light years. We have also captured your communication protocols. For the first time, uncertainty showed in the alien's expression. Additionally, Wright continued, we have dispatched 20 stealth vessels to various locations throughout your territory. Each carries weapons that can do to your homeworlds what we just did to your shields. This was only partly true. Earth had indeed sent stealth probes, but they were primarily for intelligence gathering. The Artaxians didn't need to know that. You lie, Kethvok said, but there was doubt in his voice. The Empire killed Lily Martinez, Wright replied. A child who only wanted to speak your language. You thought there would be no response because you believe humans are weak. Today you learned otherwise. As they spoke, Earth forces secured the Artaxian outpost. The alien defenders, never trained for actual combat, surrendered quickly. Valuable technology was being cataloged and prepared for transport back to Earth. The Empire has existed for 10,000 years, Kethvok said. You cannot hope to stand against us. Wright leaned closer to the camera. We don't need to defeat your entire empire. We just need to make the cost of fighting us too high to bear. This is your only warning. Leave our solar system, acknowledge your crime, and surrender. Those responsible for Lily's death. She cut the transmission before the alien could respond. On the captured outpost, Captain Lewis stood in the command center, now under human control. One of his officers approached with a tablet. Sir, we found their weapons cache. And something else, detailed scans of all human colonies. They were planning something long before the Martinez incident. Lewis took the tablet, his expression hardening as he scrolled through the files. Get this to Admiral Wright immediately. The Artaxians won't back down. They'll retaliate. We need to be ready. As Earth celebrated its first victory, military, leaders prepared for what was coming. The Artaxian Empire would not take this humiliation lightly. They would return with a force designed to crush humanity once and for all. But humans were done playing by alien rules. The war for Earth's survival and justice for Lily had only just begun. The Artaxian Empire responded exactly as Admiral Wright predicted. 1 week after humans captured the Neptune outpost, a fleet of 30 warships entered the solar system. They moved with purpose toward Mars, where humanity had established its largest off-Earth colony. Inside the war room at Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Wright studied the holographic display showing the enemy fleet's approach. They're following standard Imperial battle formation, said Colonel Frank Miller, head of tactical analysis. Just like the data we captured showed they would. Wright nodded. The information taken from the Neptune outpost had proven invaluable. Are our ships in position? Yes, Admiral. Operation Scattered Thunder is ready. Instead of gathering Earth's ships into a single defensive fleet, which would be quickly destroyed by superior Artaxian firepower, Wright had developed a different strategy. Human vessels were distributed throughout the solar system in small groups, hiding behind moons, within asteroid fields, and in the shadows of planets. On the bridge of his ship hidden in Mars's shadow, Major Daniel Johnson watched the approaching Artaxian fleet. His vessel, the EDF Vengeance, was small but packed with newly developed weapons based on captured Artaxian technology. All hands to battle stations, Johnson ordered. Prepare ghost projectors. The ghost projectors were Dr. Kevin Foster's latest creation. They generated false sensor readings that made one ship appear to be 5. Combined with automated combat systems, this allowed a single human vessel to fight as though it were a small fleet. As the Artaxian armada approached Mars, they detected what appeared to be a defensive force of 20 Earth ships rising from behind the planet. Primitive vessels detected, reported the Artaxian sensor officer aboard the Imperial flagship. They seek to defend their colony. Fleet. Commander Zexkar made a gesture of contempt. Destroy them all, then target the colony domes. The Artaxian ships opened fire, energy weapons lancing across space toward the human defenders. To their surprise, the Earth vessels split into evasive patterns too complex for such primitive beings. Even more confusing, their sensors now showed over 60 human ships where there had been only 20 moments before. How is this possible? Zexkar demanded as his gunners reported difficulty tracking the human vessels. Unknown to the Artaxians, each actual human ship was controlling 4 holographic projections using the Ghost system. These projections could not fire weapons but appeared identical to real ships on Artaxian sensors. The enemy was forced to divide their fire, wasting energy on targets that didn't exist. Meanwhile, the real human ships struck with precision. Quantum destabilizers targeted the Artaxian shields, while new weapons, developed from studying captured technology, damaged the alien vessels. Below the battle, in a secure bunker beneath the Martian colony, Captain Rebecca Garcia coordinated the defense. Ghost Fleet 2, activate now, she ordered. From the far side of Mars rose another 20 ships, 5 real vessels and 15 projections. They hit the Artaxian fleet from behind, catching them in a crossfire. Fleet Commander Zexkar watched in growing alarm as his neat formation broke apart under the confusing attack. This is impossible. How are these primitives coordinating such complex maneuvers? The answer was another human innovation. Since learning about the Artaxians, Earth scientists had developed neural interface systems that allowed ship captains to control multiple vessels simultaneously. What seemed like brilliant tactical coordination was actually one human mind directing several ships at once. As the battle raged around Mars, a separate human operation began. A small stealth craft slipped through the chaos, approaching the Artaxian flagship undetected. Inside, Major Lisa Chen led a team of 6 Special Forces soldiers. Remember, she told her team, our target is their communication hub. Plant the package and get out. Using captured access codes, Chen's team boarded the flagship through a maintenance airlock. They moved silently through the massive vessel, their armor designed to deflect Artaxian sensors. When they reached the communication center, they encountered minimal resistance. The Artaxians, arrogant in their technological superiority, had never expected an enemy to board their command ship. During battle, package planted, reported Sergeant Fred Willis as he attached a small device to the main communication array. Activating now. The device was the Lily Protocol, a virus designed by Dr. Foster to infiltrate Artaxian systems. Once activated, it would spread throughout the Imperial communication network, carrying a special payload. Chen checked her tactical display. 2 minutes until extraction. Let's move. As her team retreated to their ship, the virus began its work. Throughout, the Artaxian fleet command screen suddenly changed. The video of Lily Martinez's murder played on every display, followed by footage of the Neptune outpost falling to human forces. The psychological impact was immediate. Junior officers who had never seen the killing firsthand now witnessed their Empire's casual murder of a child. Some hesitated in carrying out orders. Others questioned what they were fighting for. Fleet Commander Zexkar raged as he tried to regain control of his ships. Silence that transmission. Resume attack patterns. But the damage was done. The coordinated Artaxian assault faltered as individual captains responded differently to the unexpected psychological warfare. Some pressed the attack with renewed fury. Others pulled back, confused by the disturbing images. Taking advantage of the chaos, Earth's forces struck decisively. 3 Artaxian destroyers were disabled. The rest of the fleet fell into disarray. From Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Wright watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Signal all ships. Execute second phase. The human vessels suddenly disengaged and retreated to defensive positions around Mars. The Artaxians, expecting pursuit, instead found themselves faced with a new threat as defense platforms hidden on Mars's moons activated, launching swarms of automated drones. These drones, too small to target effectively with large weapons, attached themselves to Artaxian ships and began drilling through their hulls. Each carried a quantum destabilizer that could breach even Imperial armor. Fleet Commander Zexkar watched in horror as his mighty warships were overwhelmed by what seemed like mechanical insects. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships, retreat, beyond this system's edge." The once proud Imperial fleet limped away from Mars, leaving 7 destroyed vessels behind. The first major battle between humanity and the Artaxian Empire had ended in a shocking defeat for the aliens. In the aftermath, Admiral Wright received an urgent message from President Nichols. "The Artaxian High Command has requested communication," he told her. "They want to discuss terms." Wright's expression remained hard. "Good. Tell them our terms haven't changed. Justice for Lily Martinez, withdrawal from our system, and acknowledgement of their crime." As the message was relayed, Dr. Foster approached with a tablet. "Admiral, I've analyzed more of the data from the Neptune outpost. The Artaxians have been studying us for decades, looking for weaknesses. Lily's death wasn't just a random act of cruelty. It was part of a pattern." Wright took the tablet, scanning the information with growing anger. "They've been testing our responses, seeing how much we would tolerate." "Yes," Foster confirmed. "And now they know." The Admiral looked up at the tactical display, where the retreating Artaxian fleet was tracked by human sensors. "They thought killing a child would show their power. Instead, it showed them ours. Earth had won the first major battle, but everyone knew the war was just beginning." The Artaxian Empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. They would not accept defeat at the hands of primitives. They would return with an even larger force. But humanity would be ready. For Lily Martinez and for themselves, they would fight with everything they had. 1 month after the Battle of Mars, Earth's leaders gathered in the underground war room beneath Geneva. The mood was tense, but determined. Large screens displayed the positions of human and Artaxian forces throughout the solar system and beyond. "Admiral." Wright stood before the assembly, her uniform crisp despite the fact she had slept only a few hours in the past week. "The Artaxians are regrouping at their main base in the Proxima Centauri system," she reported. "Intelligence suggests they're bringing in reinforcements from the core Imperial worlds." President Nichols nodded grimly. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe 3, Wright answered. "They're gathering a force 5 times larger than what we faced at Mars." Around the table, faces showed concern, but not fear. Earth had proven it could fight back, but everyone knew the next battle would be much harder. Dr. Kevin Foster cleared his throat. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes from endless work on new weapons systems. "We've analyzed more of the data from captured Artaxian ships," he said. "There's something you all need to see." He activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed an Artaxian command meeting recorded months before Lily Martinez's death. "We've restored and translated the audio," Foster explained. As the recording played, the hologram showed High Commander Vexthor, the same officer who had killed Lily, speaking to the Imperial Council. "The humans remain resistant to intimidation," Vexthor was saying. "They continue to demand equal treatment despite their primitive status. I recommend a demonstration of Imperial authority to correct their misconceptions about their place in the Galactic Order." Another Artaxian, marked by different insignia, spoke up. "What kind of demonstration?" "Something to break their spirit," Vexthor replied. "These creatures form strong emotional bonds with their young. The loss of a child during an official visit would show them the consequences of disrespect." The recording ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. "It was planned," President Nichols finally said, his voice tight with anger. "They deliberately murdered a child as a political statement." Admiral Wright's expression hardened. "This changes things. The Artaxian Empire didn't just kill Lily Martinez. They authorized it as policy. The implications were clear to everyone. This wasn't a case of one commander's cruelty. The entire empire was complicit in a strategy that used child murder as a diplomatic tool." "We need to take this to the public," said Defense Secretary Bell. The world needs to know what we're really fighting. Within hours, the recording was broadcast to every corner of Earth and its colonies. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Recruitment stations were flooded with volunteers. Production facilities worked around the clock. Earth was no longer just fighting for revenge. It was fighting against an enemy that saw killing children as acceptable strategy. On the Artaxian homeworld of Artax Prime, a different meeting was taking place. Subcommander Zrel, who had witnessed Lily's murder firsthand, stood before a small group of like-minded officers. "The humans have proven more formidable than anyone predicted," Zrel said. "They have adapted our own technology to use against us. They fight with unexpected skill. The Emperor has ordered the deployment of planet killers," said one of the gathered officers. "They plan to destroy Mars as a show of force." Zrel's breathing tubes flared in alarm. "That will only strengthen human resolve. I have studied their history. They fight hardest when defending their young or facing extinction. What do you propose?" "Peace," Zrel said simply. "What happened to the Martinez child was wrong, even by our own ancient laws. Killing a child who offers friendship violates the code of honorable conduct." The others shifted uncomfortably. Questioning imperial decisions was dangerous. But after seeing the humans' unexpected strength in battle, many were beginning to doubt the wisdom of this war. "I will bring these concerns to Emperor Krathax," Zrel decided. "Perhaps he will listen to reason." He was wrong. When Zrel presented his case for peace talks, Emperor Krathax had him arrested for treason. The Emperor, furious at being challenged by a primitive species, ordered an immediate escalation. "Deploy the planet killer to the Mars colony," commanded. "Show these humans the true power of the Empire." The news of Zrel's arrest reached Earth through intelligence channels. Admiral Wright immediately called an emergency meeting with her top officers. "The Emperor has rejected peace and ordered an attack on Mars using a planet killer weapon," she informed them. "We have approximately 48 hours before it arrives." Captain Joe Lewis, now commander of Earth's Rapid Response Force, leaned forward. "Can we evacuate the colony in time?" "Partially," Wright answered, "but we have another option." She nodded to Dr. Foster. The scientist activated another holographic display, showing a network of small devices spread throughout Artaxian space. "These are our stealth probes," he explained. "Originally designed for intelligence gathering, they've been modified based on captured Artaxian technology." "Modified how?" Lewis asked. "Each now carries a terraforming scale weapon," Foster said. "Similar to the Artaxian planet killer, but more precisely targeted. They can destroy specific locations rather than entire worlds." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're suggesting we threaten to destroy Artaxian worlds if they attack Mars?" President Nichols said quietly. Wright nodded. "Not just threaten. If they deploy their planet killer, we respond in kind, but with precision. We target military installations, not civilian areas. We show them we can strike anywhere in their empire, but we maintain our humanity by avoiding unnecessary deaths." After hours of debate, the plan was approved. Admiral Wright recorded a message and transmitted it directly to Emperor Krathax. "We know about your planet killer," she said, looking directly into the camera. "We also know it was you who authorized the murder of Lily Martinez as imperial policy. Before you launch your attack, you should know that we have positioned weapons throughout your empire targeted at your military bases and palaces. For Lily, the message included proof of the stealth probe's positions, enough to convince but not enough to allow the Artaxians to find them all." On Artax Prime, Emperor Krathax watched the message with growing rage. "She dares to threaten me? Impossible. These primitives cannot have such weapons." His advisors were less certain. "The humans have consistently surprised us," one noted cautiously. "Perhaps we should verify their claims before proceeding." "No!" the Emperor shouted. "Launch the planet killer now! I will not be intimidated by lesser beings." 24 hours later, the Artaxian planet killer entered Mars orbit. It fired once, destroying the small moon of Phobos as a demonstration of power. Before it could target the main colony, Admiral Wright gave the order: execute Operation Orphan's Vengeance. Across Artaxian space, the stealth probes activated simultaneously. On 7 Imperial worlds, military bases and command centers vanished in flashes of controlled destruction. The Imperial Palace on Artax Prime lost its eastern wing, the Emperor's private quarters. Krathax, who had been in the Central Command Center, survived. But his authority did not. The Imperial Council, faced with evidence of weapons they couldn't detect attacking targets they couldn't protect, voted to remove the Emperor from power. As reports of the Emperor's removal reached Earth, Admiral Wright allowed herself a small smile. Phase 4 complete, she said quietly. Now for the hard part, winning the peace. 3 years had passed since the day Lily Martinez died. 3 years of war, sacrifice, and transformation for both humanity and the Artaxian Empire. The once mighty alien power now stood fractured, with dozens of previously subject species declaring independence as the central authority crumbled. In Earth orbit, a massive space station had been constructed from captured Artaxian technology. Named New Hope, it served as neutral ground for the peace negotiations that would finally end the conflict. At its center was a large conference chamber, where representatives from Earth, the reformed Artaxian Council, and 20 former Imperial, subject species gathered. Admiral Samantha Wright, now gray at the temples from the strain of leading Earth's forces, stood by the viewport overlooking her homeworld. She wore her dress uniform adorned with the medals and honors earned during the long campaign. Yet her greatest achievement would not be in battle, but here, making peace. "Admiral, they're ready," said Captain Joe Lewis, now her chief aide. Wright nodded and turned from the view of Earth. "Then let's not keep them waiting." The main conference hall fell silent as Wright entered. On one side sat the human delegation, led by President Nichols. On the other, the new Artaxian leadership, including a familiar face. Sub-Commander Zrel, now bearing the title of First Speaker, had survived imprisonment and eventually led the IC's Reformation movement that overthrew the hardliners after Emperor Krathax's removal. Between them sat representatives of species that had been dominated by the Empire for centuries. The Zelani with their crystalline skin, the four-armed Venturi, the gaseous Mirren contained in special environmental suits, and many others. All had seized the opportunity presented by the war to claim their freedom. 3 years ago, Wright began, a child named Lily Martinez was murdered because she dared to speak to those who considered themselves her betters. Today we gather to ensure no child, human, Artaxian, or any species, will ever suffer such a fate again. The peace treaty had been negotiated over months of careful talks. Its terms were displayed on screens throughout the chamber. Earth and its colonies would be recognized as a sovereign territory, with rights to expand to 20 designated star systems. The Artaxian Empire would be reformed into a confederation, where all member species had equal representation. Galactic Council would be established to mediate disputes between civilizations. Most importantly, those responsible for authorizing Lily's murder would face justice. High Commander Vex Thor and several Imperial Council members were already in custody, awaiting trial. First Speaker, Zrel rose to address the gathering. The Artaxian people have lived for 10,000 years believing ourselves superior to all other life. In 3 short years, humanity showed us the error of our ways. He paused, his 4 eyes blinking in the Artaxian gesture of respect. We did not understand that true strength lies not in technology or territory, but in what you will fight for, in who you will fight for. President Nichols stepped forward with the treaty in hand. We did not want this war, but when it came, we fought not just for revenge, but for a principle, that every life has value, that no power gives the right to treat others as less than yourself. One by one, the representatives came forward to sign. Earth, the Reformed, Artaxian Confederation, the Free Zelani, the Ventari Collective. Each signature represented billions of individuals who would now live in a galaxy fundamentally changed by humanity's stand. When the formal ceremony ended, Admiral Wright found herself approached by a small group. Carlos and Elena Martinez had aged far beyond the 3 years that had passed. Grief had etched permanent lines in their faces, but today they showed something else. A sense of closure. "Admiral," Carlos said, extending his hand. "We wanted to thank you personally." Wright took his hand, emotion threatening to break through her professional demeanor. "I only wish we could have saved her." Elena shook her head. "You gave her death meaning. Because of Lily, billions of children across the galaxy will grow up free." From a small case, Carlos removed something that made Wright's breath catch, a hand-drawn picture, clearly the work of a child. It showed a crude rocket ship among stars. "Lily drew this a week before she died," Elena explained. "She told us it was the future, where everyone could explore the stars together as friends. We'd like it to hang in the new Galactic Council chamber." Wright nodded, unable to speak for a moment. "It will be the first item installed," she finally managed. Later that day, as the various delegations prepared to depart, Dr. Kevin Foster joined Wright on the observation deck. They watched as ships of dozens of designs, human, Artaxian, and others, moved peacefully through space around the station. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Foster asked. "When we first learned what happened to Lily?" Wright shook her head. "I thought we'd fight until either they were destroyed or we were. I never imagined we'd change them instead." "They underestimated humanity," Foster said. "They thought killing a child would make us submit. They didn't realize it would unite us like nothing else could." The Admiral smiled faintly. "The irony is that Lily would have been the first to forgive them. From what her parents told me, she was fascinated by the Artaxians. She wanted to be a translator, to help species understand each other. In a way, she became the greatest translator of all," Foster mused. "She translated human determination in a language the entire galaxy could understand." 6 months later, on what would have been Lily Martinez's 12th birthday, the newly formed Galactic Council held its first official session. The council chamber, constructed on the New Hope station, featured a circular table where representatives from all member species sat as equals. Above the chamber entrance hung Lily's drawing, now preserved behind protective glass. Beneath it, a small plaque bore an inscription in multiple languages: "For Lily Martinez, 1949 to 2157. One small voice that changed the galaxy." The first act of the council was to establish the Lily Martinez Foundation for Interspecies Understanding, dedicated to fostering communication and peaceful relations between civilizations. Its headquarters on Europa, at the site where Lily had died, would train translators and diplomats from all member species. As the council session ended, Admiral Wright stood at the chamber window, looking out at the stars. For 3 years, she had carried the weight of Earth's survival on her shoulders. She had made difficult decisions, ordered strikes that took lives, all to protect humanity and seek justice. Now, as peace spread throughout the galaxy, she could finally let herself feel what she had kept contained for so long. A tear slipped down her cheek as she whispered words meant for a child she had never met but had come to know through her parents' stories. "We did it, Lily. The stars belong to everyone now." In the vastness of space, a new era had begun. Humanity had proven that its strength came not from technology or numbers but from what it valued most: its children, its future, its capacity for both terrible vengeance and remarkable forgiveness. The Artaxian Empire had killed a human child. Earth had unleashed merciless war, and from that war, a better galaxy had emerged.